Rule number one, don't read Facebook. That's where the work of a migration agent will stop. That's where a migration lawyer can continue. Don't send an email to 10 migration agents.
Everybody, thanks for joining us again today, and I have got Jannie here, who is working for the Kotze law firm, or is the, what shall we call you, co-owner?
Yes.
Welcome, Jannie, and thanks so much for coming today to come and enlighten us about all these new things that has been happening in this new life, shall I say, that we're living in. Things have been somewhat strange in the last year and how long has it been now? A year and a half almost, eh?
Yeah, well, March last year, the new era started.
Is it the new normal?
The new normal.
Hopefully not.
Something like that, yeah.
We probably still want to be able to travel abroad, so
Yes.
hopefully things will become a bit more normal in the new normal.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing with us all your really wonderful experience and knowledge that you have as a lawyer. How long have you been in Australia for?
We've been here since 2010 and we've been practicing as lawyers here since 2012.
Okay, and that was in Perth?
In Perth, yeah. So we landed to 10 in Perth and we've been here since then.
So I have to ask you, do you feel like you're an Aussie now or not yet?
No, it takes about 1,000 days, they say, and I personally feel this is home.
Good.
Although sometimes you do long back to your homeland, but this is home for us.
Good,
Yeah.
yes. Well, I do love Australia, as you know, so thank you for having a chat. And I would like to know if you could start by telling us how does the migration law or migration in a broader sense work?
Chamonix, the migration law firstly is quite a complex set of legislation. You firstly get the Migration Act, and then next to that is the regulations. But what complicates the whole thing is actually the policy that goes hand in hand with it. Not to say complicated, but you need to read all in conjunction with the other. Now, just as an example, if you take the Migration Act and policy and you compile it, it's about 500,000 pages of legislation and policy. So that's the starting point. It's legislative instruments that dictate the total migration program in Australia. They set and reset the program yearly from federal government side, where they basically, by way of legislation, dictate how the program will run in the next year. It starts the 1st of July every year and ends the 30th of June of every year.
And is that based around how they see how things work in Australia and what works better and what works not so good for them?
Yes, obviously we're not privy to exactly what and how they calculate and how many visa applicants may enter Australia, but if you read between the lines, it's clear how they drive the process. Just as an example, through the COVID process last year and actually the year before that, they started to attract more talented people for Australia. Now, there's a program currently called the Global Talent Independent Visa. It is actually based on a distinguished talent visa. 3 years ago, the allocation for that kind of visa was only 200. Then they upped it to 5,000 per year, and then last year they upped the quota to 15,000. And that shows that they want to attract the best of the best in the world to Australia. That is a visa for people with absolute international talent, PhDs, and master degrees, and so on. So yes, it drives from federal government. They drive where they want to go.
Sounds like the knowledge economy.
Yes.
Yeah. People with highly skilled abilities, I guess.
Yeah. The same thing, as an example, is the business visas, where they want to attract top business people and investors. The program normally had about 6,500 entries per year, and last year they nearly doubled it to 13,500 allocation, which means that they want to drive new business people and investors into Australia.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And so the yearly quota is 160,000?
It's set at 160,000 for this year, and they also break it down in the specific categories. I've got the newest ones here, which I can just quickly read.
Yes, please. Yeah.
The program is divided into basically 4 divisions. So the first one is your general skilled and employer visums. That is for your 480 visums, employment and people with skills, engineers and so on coming in. Now in the book year or the fiscal year up until June 2020, the allocation for that group was 96,000. They brought it down to 50,000 for the 2021 fiscal year, which shows where the government is heading with that. Now, I've already talked about the Global Talent Independent Visa, that was 5,000, and the quota there is 15,000 for this year up until the 30th of June. The business visums I already talked about is up from 6,500 to 13,000. Then the other category is a family category, and that's divided in 2, in the family partner and the family parent visa. Now, the total on the current family partner one is 72,000 for this fiscal year, and the family parent only 5,000. The previous year it was for the partner 39,000 and for the parent 7,300. So they changed a bit on that, but it's still quite a big portion of the migrants that will be allowed to get visa grants is in the family side. And then you get the child and the other visa, which is on a periphery, which is about 4,000 visas. So the total quota is 160,000. How it will look for the 2021-22 book year or fiscal year is unknown at this stage.
Right.
Estimate will be more or less the same.
Okay, that's interesting. And so where does South Africa stand in all of this?
South Africa is currently in a ranking order 9th on the list. The top entry currently of the visums are India, standing on around about 25,000 per year. Then China after that, about 18,000. And then it comes down to South Africa. On the previous year, the grants was 3,800 South Africans that were granted visums in these categories. That's excluding visitors' visums,
of course,
visums like that.
These are general skilled kind of
visums. So we still under the top 10, but it's not really a push than an attraction, to call it.
A push out of South Africa, as opposed to attraction from Australia to invite the South Africans over.
Indeed, the program is neutral, so it's based on skills and age. So wherever you are, whoever you are, colour creed does not care. If you are qualified and there's 2 people, the person with the best qualification will win. So to speak.
We often get the question about does it help if you have a British passport or not? But
no.
My assumption is no, it doesn't, because as you said, it's based on your skills and those kinds of things. So whether you have a pink or a red or a blue passport, it doesn't matter. It
does not matter. It is skills based and the criteria is neutral, so it does not care where you come from.
Well, that's good because it's fair.
Yes, it is.
Very fair.
Yeah.
And you've touched upon the types of visas that you get for the parent / the relationship kind of visas, the family visas. Can you give us an overview of the general skilled categories you get?
Chamonix, these, let's say the first one, or the skilled visums, is broken down into 4 categories. I'm just reiterating, this is general.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more than what I say, so I'm just giving you a general overview. The skilled visums is broken down into, firstly, the general skilled visums. This is the normal subclass 190, 189 visums, which is normally the points-based skills visums. Then your employment-nominated visums, that's a subclass 482, etc. kind of visums, where there's an employer that nominates you or employer that sponsors you to get in. And the third category there is then your business visums. That's for the business person, and the criteria that you must meet is, for instance, that you must be a business person in your current jurisdiction. You must have that business or owner of the business for certain years, certain turnovers, and a certain asset base. And then the fourth one is this, what I already talked about, the GTI, or the Global Talent Independent Visa. So that is your general skilled or your skilled categories. Visums. The family of visums are divided into 4 groups, and the 4 groups is a parent visum, partner visum, child visum, and then a relative visum. So that's the 4 major groups. And each of the groups has got various categories under them. For instance, parent visums, specifically for the South Africans, there's a lot of parents coming in. There's 6 types of parent visums, and it all depends on whether you're onshore, offshore, etc., etc. Sometimes you qualify for 2 or 3 of that, but it's more strategy on which visa is fit for you at that specific stage. On the partner visums, there are, I think, 5 different categories of visums, and the same. It depends on your strategy and your circumstances, which visa will be the best for you.
Now, talking about COVID and how it's changed our lives, I know that you guys have been much more busy doing travel exemptions.
Yeah.
As obviously pre-COVID, there wasn't something called travel exemptions that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
How has that influenced what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, it's new and a new law, well, if you can call it law, because if you work with it like we do, it is a little bit of a grey area in law. But the principle is that the borders of Australia is closed but also open. It's closed. If you want to come in, there's certain people that come in that's got an automatic exemption to enter into Australia. If you're a citizen and you are abroad, you are come into Australia the same with a permanent resident. If you're outside that category, you need to apply for a travel exemption to get into Australia. So we get bombarded with last 6 months on are the borders open and are they currently granting visas? Yes, they are granting visas. The system is going. It was a bit of a slow system last year. This year the system is all green light. They issue the visas. Certain visas, you may have the visa in your hand, but you still need a travel exemption to get into the country.
Okay, so you need both.
You need both. And in the certain categories on, let's say, just as an example, you received a subclass for a 2 visa, you are a butcher. So you've got your visa in hand, pre-COVID, get board an airplane, get into the country. Now you can't. Now you need to apply for travel exemption and you need to show why you need to get into the country. The specific categories that you can come in, for instance, on compassionate circumstances, there is a category, but you need to prove that there is compassionate circumstance you need to come in. Death, you need to attend a funeral of your mum or your brother, whatever lives in Australia.
And they still need to do the 2-week quarantine, don't they?
Yes, indeed, yes.
Regardless of what exemption you get, you still need to quarantine.
You still need to quarantine. So today it's actually 2 things. Visa application, one thing, and then also a exemption to travel.
And is there one that you need to start before the other, or do you do two at the same time?
Simultaneously. Which one first is really unknown, but we do it simultaneously. Sometimes we try and get the visa grant and then apply for that, and sometimes we run a parallel, depending on the circumstances.
So clearly it's a very complicated process because, knowing which travel exemption to apply for and which visa to apply for can be a very serious matter, and it's an important thing that you're doing. It's a life decision, really. So can you explain to us the body that represents people in this process? And I know that there are 2 different types. There are migration lawyers and migration agents. What are the difference between the 2?
I think the general rule should be, if you want to migrate, you must instruct and mandate a professional person or company to assist you. And that will either be a registered migration agent or a migration lawyer. To become a migration agent, firstly you must have a B degree, and then they do a diploma at a university in Australia. And then there's a registration process, and currently there's some exams they need to write at the Legal Practice Board as well. So it's a tedious process to become a registered migration agent. Next to that, a migration lawyer is fairly similar, but a migration lawyer is a solicitor in Australia, which is a qualified solicitor, which at least 2-year experience, unrestricted practice certificate, which specialized in migration and migration law. So both of a migration agent and a migration lawyer can assist the public with visa applications, advice on that, lodging the applications, and so forth. There are plenty migration agents which are excellent, and there are obviously migration agents which are not on standard. The difference between the two is actually at the end, when there's a visa refusal, or when you need to go to the AAT, the Appeals Tribunal, or to the Federal Circuit Court. That's where the work of a migration agent will stop, and that's where a migration lawyer can continue with the work. Right. Represent the client in the Federal Circuit Court or whatever court you choose to go thereafter. Just repetitive, but the advice from my side is, if you want to migrate, go to a registered MARA agent or a solicitor or a lawyer that specializes in migration.
Just to confirm, the lawyers don't need to be MARA registered anymore?
No. Previously, yes, but not anymore. I had to have 2 registrations, which was quite silly, but previously the legislation was like that. So I was a registered migration agent and I was a solicitor on the side. But it's a dual registration, and then about 2 or 3 months ago they changed that to make so that for me personally, as a lawyer, don't need to register, because I've been practicing since 2012 already. But my wife, for instance, Karen, she is a registered migration agent. She's a lawyer, but not an Australian lawyer. But she's a registered migration agent. So that's for me the take-home thing is, go to a professional person on that. There's a lot you may lose if you do not get professional advice from the start. Simple things. If you miss a deadline and you miss your permanent residency, university fees, for instance. Difference between a provisional visa and a permanent residency visa. Child at university, $30,000 or $3,000 or $5,000. Huge difference. Or if you do it yourself and the visa is refused, number one, you lose your visa application costs, which may be around about $10,000.
Wow.
If you want to go on appeal, it's extremely expensive to go on appeal. Just your filing cost at the AAT is nearly $2,000, and then the professional fees on top of that. The better thing to do is get a professional immediately to run with you in the process, to guide you through this labyrinth of legislation and get the correct visa for you. We talked about the visums. There's nearly about 99 different kind of visums, and you may fit in 3 or 4, or what is the correct strategy for you at that stage.
So can you give us an idea of the cost of employing an agent or a lawyer, migration lawyer?
Yes. Chamonix, the cost will obviously differ per visa category that you're applying with. Obviously, I don't know what other migration agents and lawyers charge. I've got a general idea. Karen, my wife, works with quite a few other migration agents, so we've got a good feel on what they charge. Most people apply for will be your subclass 190 kind of visums, and these are professional fees around about $4,000 for the family, not per person but for the family. So that will be more or less your professional fees. On a business visum, it will be between $10,000 to $20,000 on professional fees. Partner visums vary between $3,000 and $4,000. The same with parent visums, more or less. So that's more or less your professional fees that you look at. For South African, quite a lot of money. Is it worthwhile? Indeed, it is.
Well, it's life changing.
Yes,
absolutely. Can you put cost on a life? No.
Yeah, and your new life in Australia. The other thing is obviously which people must consider is the visa application fees, which is also quite expensive.
So the professional fees do not include the visa fees. They're two separate things, so you have to pay both of them.
Yes. These broadly actually 3 sets of fees. The first is, let's say, professional fees. We've talked about that. The second is your visum or the governmental fee. So the day you lodge your visum, it's a payment towards the government, which is for if you're in a short-term list, or let's talk about, let's say, a subclass 190 visum. For the main applicant, it's around about $4,000, and your partner or your wife will be around about $2,000 and around about $1,000 per child. So family, $4,000, $2,000, $3,000, $9,000 more or less, visa application fees. On a subclass 482, if you're on a short-term list, it's much less, about $1,200 for the main applicant, about half of that, or no, the same for your wife, and about $600 per child. So the fees vary per visa category. Business visa, extremely expensive. For subclass 188, main applicant, more or less $5,500. Wife, the husband is a secondary, about $2,500. The top of the range business visa is a subclass 132. The main applicant professional visa application fees there nearly $8,000 for the main applicant. So it's extremely expensive.
Is that usually based on how complicated the case is?
Yes and no. The business visums, I understand, is expensive because it's complicated visums, huge files that go into the department which you must scrutinize. You may have a person in his jurisdiction that have, let's say, 10 companies. So it's 10 balance sheets, 10 sets of financials which they must scrutinize and so on. It's not like, let's say, an engineer where you must put in the degrees and stuff like that. It's a small file versus huge files.
Right, much more laborious to go through.
Yeah. So I presume that's how they calculate the visa cost. But again, I'm not privy to that, that's a guess. On that, there's extra fees as well. The third category is normally you need to go and write your English test, you need to go for medicals and stuff like that. So they're all skills assessment fees. So if you start applying for that, a good migration agent will immediately set out all the fees for you so that you can budget for that fees.
Okay. All right, so it's important to remember there's not one, not two, not three, there's actually more, because then you've got to still move to Australia as well, and you've got to keep that in. And then how long are you going to be here for before you start earning in dollars? So do you have to carry yourself? So these are all the budgetary kind of considerations.
Yeah, and now in COVID, there's also professional fees to do application for your travel exemption as well. And the quarantine fees as well.
Which is really expensive. 2 weeks in a hotel. You can't choose the hotel. It's being allocated to you at this point in time of filming the video. Okay, Jannie, so clearly it's a very complicated process, and there are so many things to think about, but how would you suggest, where do we start? Where do people who would like to migrate, because I'm already here, where do they start?
Well, firstly, read. Don't read Facebook. Rule number 1. Because the advice you get on Facebook is not the correct advice. Your advice you need will be unique to you, your circumstances. The Department of Home Affairs website is quite good, so start there. Secondly, update your CV or resume, and then make contact with a registered migration agent.
Or lawyer.
Or lawyer, one of the two. And some of the migration agents will specialize more in one field, and some will specialize more in another field. At Kotze Law, for instance, Carlin she's a general migration agent. She will do all the visums. I personally, as migration lawyer, specialize in the legal side of that, and also business and investment visums. So pick a migration agent and start the process with them. Which is an absolute no-no for me personally, is don't send an email to 10 migration agents and try and get answers from them. Pick one. They are all busy, and they do you a huge favor if they give you some kind of assessment on that. It's their time, their professional time. An assessment will take them good on 10 to 15 to 20 minutes, which is, in the monetary terms, between $150 and $400 worth of work that you will get free of charge if they do a free guideline for you. You must respect that. So if one migration agent, if you send an email to a migration agent or a lawyer and ask for an assessment and they do not get back to you, they're most probably busy. Don't be rude to them. Do a courtesy follow-up. And if they can't help you because they are too busy, go to another.
And may I add that it's not always because of that. It might be that there was a mistake in the email address that you typed. or the spam robots picked it up, because
Yes.
I see that happens all the
Yes,
time.
indeed.
So yeah, absolutely, just send another email or pick up the phone if you have to,
Yes,
or find
yeah.
another way of contacting the
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
But Jannie, I know that Karen works with a group of other migration agents and or lawyers. Can you give us a bit more information about that group?
They call themselves SAMTA, and they work separately but also together. All of them are excellent migration agents. So it's Karen Kotze, Gerrit Jansen van Rensburg, Bruce McFarlane, Andrew Heathcote, Andre Burger, Marlene Prentice, and Joey Barnard. All excellent migration agents, been in this trade for many years. They're all in Australia, and most of them will help with a preliminary guideline or an assessment free of charge.
And they're all ex-South African.
They are all ex-South Africans that can assist. So my personal advice would be that's the first go-to to one of these agents that I've just mentioned. We in our practice we specialise. So Karen will do certain aspects and I will deal with certain aspects, which is more the legal side and also the business and investment visas.
Right, okay. Well, that's good, because so essentially what you're saying is, regardless of which one of these 7 agents that you might use, you're actually really getting the support of 6 others included.
They will contact each other. Just as an example, if she sits with a complicated set of facts, pick up the phone, talk to Gerrit. And the same vice versa. So you get depth in your advice, and at least people that can brainstorm with that. Where in certain instances, some of the migration agents are one person sitting at home and they haven't got the facility to brainstorm and talk to others. While here you've got a group, they talk to each other, or some of them's got depth in their firm as well. Like we are small, but we 5 in the firm, so we can brainstorm and read legislation and so on. So that's quite important to make sure that you are involved or you engage a migration lawyer or agent that's got depth and that can understand your case and can drive it forward.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's really been interesting to hear how things fit together, and I'm sure that that this would provide an overview for people who are considering coming to Australia. Just an idea of where to start, because when you'll remember from back then when you came over to Australia, when you originally think about how am I going to go to Australia, what am I going to do, it feels like you've got this mountain ahead of you. And just by breaking down these things a little bit for our viewers, it helps them to get an idea of where to start and what to do. And in the end, as you'll know, it is possible to come to Australia. You've just got to start somewhere and start reaching out to people, because there are people who can help you. You don't have to go at this all on your own.
Yeah.
So thanks again for coming.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. And hopefully next time when we speak to you, it will be in post-COVID.
Yes, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you so much for joining me today. If you had fun, please remember to hit that subscribe button, and then it'll make sure that you never miss a thing. I'll see you same time and same place next week. Bye for now.